of the undoing. When we were in Canada, my husband and I was sitting down to the piano one day to process, something in life like I do all the time. And I said to the Lord, I'm so undone by you. And he very gently said back to me, you don't know what it is to be undone. I was kind of taken back for a minute, and I was like, what do you mean? And he said, all of life is the undoing until one day, face to face, you'll be completely undone. And he was saying that this whole life is full of process. It's the process of us being unwound, that temporary thing coming out of us and the eternal thing we were born for actually coming out, right? And so I had that moment with God, and I realized that he found so much pleasure in the process, and we went on this crazy journey, and finding the promised land was in the process and not at the end of it, And so I really, really started thinking about an album at that point that maybe I would call my album one day, whenever I made one, The Undoing. So this is actually full of spirit songs and soul songs, most of them written in a season when I was in a new country, in a new marriage with a new family, new friends, new everything, doing things that I had never done before that I wasn't necessarily good at and didn't know if I would be. So anyways, and so these songs came out of that season when I had hours at the piano by myself. Stephen would be at work, and I would play, and I would process, and I would worship. And when I could really embrace that season, that's when songs started flowing. And I didn't write any of them for the album, which was really sweet. I didn't write them to be on an album. They just came from, some of them were songs that were for friends in seasons of brokenness, and some of them were my own process with the Lord and all the newness. And some of them, lots of them, were finished with Amanda in our writing week, because I think I would have left them on my phone as little pieces and nuggets of songs, just moments with the Lord, and she actually spoke into them and like, this is a song, and the world needs to hear this. And she had this, global apostolic vision for it, and I'm just like, there's just a little prophetic moment with the Lord, and it can stay that way. And she just pushed me to get them out and to finish them, and I don't think I would have if she hadn't done that either. But I felt like the Lord told me that I would be pregnant when I made my first album. And Stephen and I weren't planning on being, on having a little one yet, but we also weren't opposed. And we had talked about it. We're like, well, whenever, like, God's timing is perfect, and he knows when we're ready. And but I felt like it was going to be when I made my first album. We haven't scheduled any album stuff, and we hadn't done anything yet. And so, literally, down to maybe a week before we go into recording, I find out that we're pregnant. And we went into so I'm having my first little one while I'm making my first album. And it was just, there was so much grace. There was so much grace. And it was just this beautiful prophetic gift to us. So many first things being birthed. And it just so happens that this little one and the album will come out about the same time as well. He thinks of everything. So I am praying that this album will help lead you through your own process and teach you how to worship through the stuff that's in between Sundays when there are not, hundreds of people in the room raising their hands and going after it with you, that you would learn to process through your own stuff with the Lord and worship through those things. So this is The Undoing.